In the previous session, we were discussing about the succession and also types of succession such as primary and the secondary succession. In today's session, we shall discuss about the Zurich succession. Zurich succession takes places in dry condition or in a dry area, and the series of progress from Zurich to mesic condition. In previous class itself, we came to know Zurich condition means that is nothing but where there is a dry condition, there the succession begins or starts, and mesic condition means that is the condition in the ecosystem or that is a condition in the environment where there is a moderate climatic condition or a favorable climatic condition for the begin of a new community or a new ecosystem, and that is nothing but the mesic condition. Moderate condition is nothing but the mesic condition. I am going to repeat. The Zurich succession takes places in dry area, and the series of progress from Zurich to mesic condition takes places, and hence both hydrarch and Zurich succession leads to medium water condition. Medium water condition, we are telling it as nothing but a mesic condition. The condition which is neither dry nor wet is called as mesic condition. The condition where there is no Zurich or the hydric, where there is a moderate condition, and that we are going to call as a mesic condition. And in the next slide, we are going to know about in xerocerate primary succession takes places on bare rocks, usually by lichens, and those lichens able to secrete acids to dissolve rock that helps in weathering of rock and soil formation. Here a new begin has start, or the succession has to take place, and the initial or the begin is taking place in the, that is the xerocerate primary succession taking place or beginning with the bare places, that is nothing but a rock, bare rocks, usually by the lichens. That means these lichens usually grow by attaching or fixed to the rocks, and gradual changes takes places, and the lichens are going to produce some kind of acids, and that acid will lead to the dissolve of rocks. What we are speaking, this acid reaction with the rocks or dissolving of rock is not a very less period process, but instead it takes a very longer period, and it may take hundreds of years to dissolve a rock, and that is what happening, that is nothing but weathering of rock is taking place. That means the rock is going to break down, and it splits into smaller stones and many other smaller pieces, and finally it leads to the formation of the soil. This is how the formation of soil takes places, by the weathering of rock. Then the small plants like bryophytes, like mosses, were formed on those soil which is primarily formed. Now in the primary succession, the formation of soil took place. Later in that soil, the small plants like bryophytes were developed, which are able to hold a very small quantity or a very small amount of soil. they are succeeded by the bigger plants. That means the same bryophytes leads to the development of the next highly evolved bigger plants. After many stages, the stable climax forest community is formed. So this forest community is not formed in 1 or 2 days. It is a very gradual, slow process, and it took for around hundreds and thousands of years to frame a community. First, we saw the formation of soil by the weathering of rocks, and gradually in that soil there was development of a very primary bryophytes, and those bryophytes were capable to hold the soil in a very small quantity, and those bryophytes leads to the next development of the bigger plants, and after several stages the stable forest community was formed. And this is how the community is formed. The final community that establishes equilibrium with the environment is called as climax community. Climax community means nothing but the final community, that is, which is completely formed or completely framed by several stages, that establishes equilibrium with the environment. A complete well-developed community, we call it as a climax community. They are showing here, that is the crustose lichen, which are considered as the pioneer community, and they are leading to the next stage, that is fruticose lichens, and those lichens are leading to the next bryophytes, that is nothing but mosses, and these mosses leads to the development of herbs, and they are gradually developed into shrubs, and finally the tree or the climax community is formed. This is how the formation of community, that is climax community, is taking place. In the next part, we are going to discuss about biogeochemical cycle, or these biogeochemical cycles is also called as nutrient cycle. It is the cyclic movement of chemical elements. We are using the word cycle. That means here the movement will be taking place. Which movement will occur? That is nothing but the movement of chemical elements. It is the cyclic movement of chemical elements from the environment into the body of organism through a series of food chain in an ecosystem is called as nutrient cycle or biogeochemical cycle. I'll repeat it. Biogeochemical cycle is also called as nutrient cycle because here the nutrient elements or the chemical elements are moving from the environment to the body of the organism, and that is taking place through a series of food chain in an ecosystem, and hence we can call it as biogeochemical cycle. Environmental factors that regulate the nutrient cycle are: one is soil, the moisture condition, pH and temperature. Like this, these are the factors which are regulating the nutrient cycle in the ecosystem. We shall see one by one the types of biogeochemical cycle. Mainly, there are three different types of nutrient cycles, such as the first type is hydrological cycle. Example is water cycle is the best example for hydrological cycle. The second type of nutrient cycle is gaseous cycle. Example for gaseous cycle is carbon cycle, oxygen cycle and nitrogen cycle. The third type of nutrient cycle is sedimentary cycle. Example for sedimentary cycle is phosphorus cycle, sulfur cycle and calcium cycle. Among these cycles, among these nutrient cycles, we are going to discuss about the carbon and the phosphorus cycle. That is, one is from the gaseous cycle and other one is from the sedimentary cycle. Now, we shall take up the first nutrient cycle, that is carbon cycle. Fossil fuel represents a reservoir of carbon. First of all, before discussing about the carbon cycle, we need to know, or we need to put some very small questions. That is, which is the source of carbon that can be seen in ecosystem? One is the source, and the second one is how it is transforming from one level to the next level. How it is moving, that we need to know. Firstly, where or which is considered as the source of carbon in the ecosystem. That is, the fossil fuel represents a reservoir of carbon. That means the fossil fuels are the major source of carbon. The carbon cycle occurs through atmosphere, ocean and through living and dead organisms. Through living and dead organisms. This is the main things that we need to know. These are the basic things which required to complete the carbon cycle. It is estimated about 4 into 10 to the power 13 kgs of carbon is fixed in the biosphere annually through photosynthesis. A considerable amount of carbon returns to the atmosphere as CO2 through the respiratory activities of producers and consumers. First, when we see, if we take this as a land and if we take this as a water ecosystem, we find many of the phytoplanktons or the microscopic or unicellular autotrophs which are found in the aquatic medium. And when we take on land, the plants and trees will be performing photosynthesis. Now, these phytoplanktons which are present in the aquatic medium will be releasing CO2 during the time of respiration, as well as they will be intaking CO2, that is, which is in the dissolved form in the water. They will be receiving CO2. How? During the time of photosynthesis. And the plants which are present on the land will be releasing CO2 to the atmosphere during the time of photosynthesis. And also these phytoplanktons also releases the CO2 during the time of photosynthesis. And not only these plants, instead many of the automobiles and many of the vehicles and many other way, the carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. We are repeating this. A considerable amount of carbon returns to the atmosphere as CO2 through the respiratory activities of producers and consumers. Respiratory activities of consumers means whichever the level of organism, that is the animals, will release carbon dioxide during the time of respiration. They intake oxygen and they release carbon dioxide. And also the same producers will also release carbon dioxide during the time of respiration, but the producers will utilize carbon dioxide during the time of photosynthesis. Next we shall see here, decomposers like bacteria and fungi releases carbon dioxide by the decomposition of waste material and dead organic matter into land and ocean. This is actual work of the decomposers. That means they are decomposing the organic matters and many other organic substances and which are present in the terrestrial region, that is in land and also in ocean. Burning of wood, forest fire, combustion of organic matter, fossil fuel, volcanic eruption also releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Some amount of fixed carbon is lost into the sediment and removed from the circulation. Here, during the time of decomposers, while the process of decomposition, these bacteria and fungi are releasing carbon dioxide to the atmosphere when the decomposition is taking place in land. And while the decomposition is taking place in ocean, the carbon dioxide will be released and that also will be in the dissolved form. When the burning of wood takes places, the carbon dioxide is released. Forest fire, during the time of combustion, definitely the carbon dioxide is released. Combustion of organic matter, the carbon dioxide is released. And fossil fuels, that is combustion of fossil fuels, carbon dioxide is released. Volcanic eruption, definitely those volcanic eruption will burn the region and many surfaces and organic substances